everybody else who's going to be tuning in soon, we are going to do kind of a continuation of the conversation we were just having off of camera. And well, I guess first we're joined by John Barton today. So, John, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Just bought a pool room in Oklahoma City, so I'm getting my feet wet in that again. And other than that, cases are going great, and business is good.
Is there
Bought a
John?
pool
Is
room,
there
huh?
a care home
Congratulations.
owned by some Vietnamese in Oklahoma City?
Yes, there is. It's actually just down the street from my place.
Okay.
What's the name of the room, John?
The name of the room that I bought is Chester's.
Oh, okay. I've been in there before. Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Well, talk to us. Promote it.
Good for you.
Okay.
Let's hear it. What do you got there?
Well, it's a pool room that's been there since 1969, according to the landlord, who's been the same landlord who built the building, and it's gone through, I think, 4 owners. I'm the latest, and at first it was called Ace's Pool Room, and then it was called just simply the Pool Room. Then the last owners before me, they purchased it, and they called it Chester's in honor of Chester Truelove, who is iconic in Oklahoma pool. Chester Truelove built a pool room called Truelove's over on the south side of Oklahoma City, and then he had his hand in many pool rooms. Even I learned that he even helped Bill Schick set up his pool room when Bill built a pool room. So Chester drove down with some of his tables, and he passed on, and he left a warehouse of tables here that are slowly being sold off by one of the billiard supply places, AJ Gill. And basically Chester was just one of those mythical figures, that went around, and he was at every garage sale where they advertised a pool room. He was there, a pool table. He was there first to buy it, and ended up setting up a lot of bars and a lot of pool rooms because of that. So we intend to keep the name Chester's to honor him, and actually make this pool room into sort of a shrine to billiards, or a billiards museum, in addition to a sort of a billiards academy. So that's where we're at with it. So in Oklahoma City, we have great food. Mike, you said you've been there, so you probably know that.
I think I stopped in once coming back from Derby with Handshoe and Rocket, and it was funny because we walked in there and it was during the day, a lot of one pocket going on, and we walked in there and everyone kind of does this number as soon as you go walk in. So, but I love going to Oklahoma whenever. Well, I hate the drive across the state of Texas, but once I'm in Oklahoma, I don't mind it. But that drive going across the state is pretty brutal at times. But that's awesome, John. Congratulations. But I want to ask you a question, because I saw your comment on a thread. It was from Heather from Brutal, and the topic was about going and traveling to shows and setting up booths. And I know you've adapted over the last couple of years because of COVID and lack of events or whatever, to doing more online sales and using Facebook as opposed to like physically going and setting up a booth at an event. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that, and maybe if you can elaborate more on what you meant.
Certainly. Well, the comment that I made to Heather was that the expenses of going to shows are sometimes, and this was well before COVID and before gas prices and everything, the expenses of going to shows are generally so high for the vendors that you're down a couple thousand for a smaller show like the Scotty Townsend, for example. That's a good example. I'm down like $2,000 in expenses before I make a sale.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, and now, of course, with the higher gas prices, it would be even more. But if I go out to Vegas, for example, and you guys might be aware of the type of booths that we used to put up, the big booths and everything, I'm literally down almost 20,000 in expenses and everything before we even make a sale. And then we spend 10, 12 hours a day at the booth because you're the only ones there. You don't have if you don't have a staff to man it, then it becomes and you're there before the first ball is hit, and just like podcasters, you're there after the last ball is hit. And so for us, it just became this game where at least most smaller tournaments, it was real hard to actually make a profit. So you kind of looked at it as a marketing exercise more than a profit making endeavor. Which for that part of it for us was always good because I love to meet people and talk to them and be out there physically promoting our brand. But it's just such a grind. I mean, Heather's company is aptly named for that. It's brutal because it is brutal.
Oh,
And there's so much that can happen between the time you leave your door when you're pulling a trailer full of goods and the time that you actually get safely set up, that I think that risk, if it can be mitigated for us, which it has been now in terms of just not going, because it's like I've had at least 2 times when I've come back from Super Billiards Expo where I've lost an axle. We've hit a pothole or something has happened, or I overloaded the trailer, for example, and it broke it, and that's like $1,500 a pop right there, plus the time that you lose. And it just everything that happens between getting home from the event, just eats into whatever profit you made, if you made any.
oh, sure.
So I fully sympathize with what Heather's going through. On top of all that risk, now she's got to pay so much more for gas, because when you're pulling a heavy trailer, you're looking at that. You're looking at your mileage pretty damn close, even in the
8
best
miles to the gallon.
Yeah. So that's what I said. So for us, we've been lucky through the pandemic. I think we're one of the few companies that have actually done okay. And I'm not talking about the big guys and everything. I'm talking about in our industry.
But I think it's different because you're already established. Like, I think when you're starting off, you have to be. There's nothing like being in front of pool players. Like, there's no better way to go and get a sale than whenever you're actually in front of them versus going and selling something online. But you reach a certain point when you have a certain reputation when it comes to your product that you can fade it, and you don't have to go and do those grinds anymore. Like, I've talked to Pat Deviney about this because I love Pat, but I tell him and Fina, I'm like, I don't know how the hell y'all do this, man. Like, y'all are traveling across the country, y'all are setting up at shows when you could go and sell cues from the house and just ship them. But Pat, like you said, John, Pat says, I love being in front of people. I love going and meeting everyone. I love going to the shows and seeing my friends and talking with customers. And he's like, there's just nothing like it.
That's a big part of it. I mean, I'll just say honestly, even, my wife and I, we talk about that and we miss it. And we said to ourselves, if we are going to do one show a year, I think that we would like to do the Super Billiards Expo best, because it's shorter than the other shows, even though they've now expanded it, I guess, to 6 days instead of 4.
Yeah.
But
Are y'all going to be there?
Huh?
Are y'all going to go?
Oh, this year we can't because go ahead. I'm sorry.
I will be.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
I will. I'm going to go out there as a visitor for the first time ever. But we can't do any shows this year because of logistics, because our order volume is up so much that we can't produce enough cases, not justifiably, to stock a booth the way that we want to stock a booth. For us, like I said, when we're down 20 grand before we hit the door, we have to move a lot of product to make a profit. And for our booths, we've always tried to put up, 200, 300, 400 cases on the wall.
I've seen them. I've seen them where you're like, I remember walking into the expo my first time and looking up, and that little like octagon shaped booth, but the walls were just huge, man. Full of cases.
Yeah, that kind of became our trademark, I guess, at shows. Because I always thought I want to maximize the space and go high as much as I can. And that, so that, and that in and of itself poses, certain logistical problems and issues. But yeah, I can't like look at my customers right now. We've got like a 10 to 12 week backlog. I can't look at my customers and say, look, we just put 400 cases on the wall. You're going to have to wait longer. So that's kind of the dilemma we're in right there.
It's a balance.
Right. So we made the decision that this year we would stay home. We would keep doing our auctions from home. So every time we get about 30 cases or so, we try to do an auction or a live sale. And that's what we eke out for ourselves each month. Just to kind of have a balance of that, getting that instant retail money.
I gotta tell you what, like those things, like the community that you've built around it, I don't partake in them all that often, but I did buy my wife's case through one of those online auctions, which was cool. I was listening to it in bed, and it's just kind of funny. I guess I was listening to it in bed, and the wife and I were having a celebration. I think it was like our half year or something or like a half year anniversary, something like that. So we had both enjoyed a nice bottle of wine. And we were just lying in bed, just, watching TV, watching a movie. And I'm going through yours, and I'm kind of looking at the case. I'm just watching casually. And I look down, and I'm like, wow, my wife wants to get into playing pool. Let's see if you have a case that I might like for her. And, so I type in there, like, what do you got for something that's purple? And you're like, you pull up this Asian Zing case. And you're like, here you go, Nate. Here's a purple one. We'll auction this one off next. And my wife's kind of like, someone's got the name Nate that has a wife that likes purple too, huh? She kind of turned over towards me and said that. I'm like, yeah, I got a weird small world, huh? Like 3 minutes later, I get the winning bid on it. And she's like, wait a second. Did you just buy that case for me? And I'm like, what do you want from me? I'm drunk and there was a nice case. Of course I'm going to buy it, right? But no, I mean, the community that you guys have built around those things are like really cool. Like you guys just sit there and take shots and get hammered, and it's the same people that it's a lot of like the people that show up for this podcast, right? There's a community of people. They all kind of just hang out and you have fun. And I think that's kind of a neat thing that you guys have built. It's unique to the industry, I think.
I'm really happy with it. I think there's one thing about it. There's a kind of a dancing monkey aspect to it. Where, I get a little bit, we do get
dancing monkeys.
Oh,
God.
God.
What a perfect time. Dancing monkeys. All right, finish up, John.
But you never know when John's going to go on tilt. So you can just tune in for that. There's a possibility that John may go off and have a viral moment in that hour and a half that he's live.
We're 4 hours, so there's a lot more moments.
Oh, there you go.
I almost had one the other day, and I had to pull myself back, so I wasn't quite drunk enough to have all my inhibitions released on that one, because I almost had an I love Brian moment.
Oh, God.
So there's that, Nate, one of the things though to talk about with that is that I do believe that it does allow me a certain amount of freedom, to be able to do that. Like Mike is referring to, things can happen or things can be said in these situations that get picked up. And like the one that he's talking about was I basically, told a guy that came on stream, I was like, F you, and all this, lots of F bombs. And it wasn't a pretty moment, to be honest with you. Looking back on it, it's not something to be proud of, but I still felt like I was in the right. And I feel like that the community that we have around us is that supportive bubble that allows us to have a little bit of that freedom, So that's what I want to say about that. But you're right, Mike. It's there's definitely a good chance in that situation for the wrong combination of things to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, you never know if you might get a deal, or you never know if you may see somebody go off. Like, get me the popcorn, I'm ready to go. I like a good deal, and I like great moments.
Yeah. Well, I try to
real live.
Yeah,
real live. Mr. Telfer, I have to tell you, I was very impressed with your drill the other day that I watched with the 3 balls.
The Don Appleton drill. Yeah,
going around the table with that, I was extremely impressed.
Yeah,
nice
tell
job.
Darren Appleton. Yeah, all he does is I do his drills, and then he makes it sound like I've cheated or something.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I get no love from that man. It's crazy. Yeah.
And
I promise you, Jim. No matter what you think that you don't get any respect for him, when you talk to him one-on-one about you, it's worse than you could even imagine.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, very subdued.
It's all right.
It's
a mutual respect.
Too.
It's a mutual respect we have for each other.
For having Mika and Darren available to some of the players in Wisconsin in the rural areas. we had a player from where I live here in this middle part of farming country who actually attended down there, and he talked to me about it this weekend, and he said I'd do it again in a heartbeat. So
What are you talking about?
well, Darren and Mika came to Central Wisconsin and put on they had a little exhibition, plus they had an instruction a time that you went down, give them a few $100 and they spent all day with you, you know, a group of people. And I had a friend that local pool playing guy that went down there, and he talked to me about it this weekend and how enjoyable it was, how much he learned, and that he would do it again in a heartbeat if Nate got these players to come and contribute.
Can I ask you guys a question? I guess I'm not waiting for you to say yes or no, but
yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, we don't wait, so
You can ask us a question. Yes.
well, I mentioned earlier about the pool room that I bought that I want to turn it into sort of a billiard academy. So I've been mulling this over a lot, these past several years about how to encourage people to want to get better. And one of the things that I have an idea that I'm going to try locally. Part of buying this pool room is just to try out a lot of these ideas that I have to see if any of it catches on. But one of them is going back to the drills and things like that to do skills challenges that can feed into a national type of skills challenge type of thing, where people have to perform. They have to do the drills like Darren's drill or anybody's drills, that people can make them up. And I think that I've seen some sort of stuff like that before, where people have tried to kind of do it nationally. But I wonder if there's any merit to it and whether or not it would be really a good thing to encourage pool rooms to set these up so that they're getting people in the pool rooms to do these drills and having a leaderboard and having points and having prizes and moving on to bigger and bigger stages. What do you guys think about that?
I think if there were enough serious players, because I've played pool for a long time and I've only barely started doing drills because I've always been more of I just want to play. Let's me and you go and play. But now I've started to do drills a little bit, but I'm kind of on the fence because I'm trying to prolong the gray hair from coming in, what little hair I got left, So, because drills can be super frustrating, man. So when I see like Darren's drill get done or whatever, I mean, it amazes me,
There's two different types of drills. There's two different types of drills. There's drills that you do in order to specifically attack a certain aspect of the game. You feel there's a certain aspect of the game that your own game that you need to improve. There's certain drills you can find that will help with that. That's one way of doing drills. The other way is just to do a drill that's just insanely difficult and spend hours and hours and hours just trying to complete it that one time and take it as a challenge to complete the drill. Now, the ones that Appleton does, a lot of the ones that Appleton does, they're actual drills that you can keep doing even once you've completed it, complete it again, and whereas there's other ones that's just, I've done it once, I'm never trying it again. That was just an absolute crazy.
Yeah.
I've spent 3 days of my life trying to do this one drill. I'm not doing it ever again. That's the one time I'm doing it, and that's the kind of challenge. As far as the whole national skills challenge, there was something that was set up. I'm not sure how far it got to getting off the ground, and I think it was called 7-ball run. And the idea was that you took the break completely out of the game, and you would set up balls on a table in certain scenarios, and then you would have to run the balls from those set positions, and you would get certain points based on whether or not you ran the balls out. And it meant that all the players would be given exactly the same layout every single time. And then it was seen as being a more fairer way to judge somebody's skill. It took luck out of the game. It took the break out of the game. But it never really got going. And I'm not sure how close they were to getting it going. I know a couple of the guys that were involved in it. And
the gambling part, I like the gambling part because depending on the player and the layout, you get to go on fire whether or not you think they're going to be able to run the table. That part I love.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing the thing that maybe let it down or that didn't get the attention was that it's no longer one-on-one pool. you're not able to put a safety in there. You're not able to put a bit of tactic in there. It's a little bit like ghost pool as well. You take out quite a large part of the game with the whole ghost pool thing.
Right.
It serves a purpose to a certain extent, and ghost pool did during the pandemic. But you see now that everybody has access to a table and to a pool hall and to each other again. Pool is pool. It's one-on-one. Pick your game. Let's go for it. Those skill challenges and these other little special little games are nice, but I don't think I'll ever replace the real thing.
I don't see it as a replacement for pool. I see it, this goes back to the beginning of the conversation where we were talking about whether or not bar table pool hurts players in America in comparison to players in other parts of the world that are playing primarily on 9-footers. And I can tell you that, I owned a pool room in Germany as well. And I spent 10 years there, and I was part of the pool clubs, and they take it seriously as a sport. They treat pool, the people who play treat pool exactly like they treat soccer over there. It's formatted approximately the same way as far as the tiers. Inside the clubs themselves, it's formatted so that there's as many teams as there are players who will make up those teams, but the teams are slotted by skill. So the first team in most of these clubs, they get the benefit of being able to go to tournaments paid for by the club. If they cash in these tournaments, then they put the money back in the kitty up till the point up till the expenses, and then they keep everything else. But if they go 2 and out or they don't cash, then they don't pay. And that's a reward for achieving the first team status. And then all the people on the teams below them are trying to get a spot on the first team, so they get those benefits and those rewards. And as a result, for example, at least in the teams that I was part of, we had mandatory practice, we had mandatory drills, we had mandatory clinics that we would do. We would bring in players like Ralph Souquet and Oliver Ortman and those guys. Those were the big guys back in those days. And we would have people come in and be part of that. And then we would force them to practice the things that we learned from those players. Because we treated it like a sport rather than a pastime.
Bingo.
And I would like to see more of that happening here. I'm just searching for a path to make that happen, because over here we do treat the game a lot more casually. We do want to just tee up head to head and go. And I see so many people in the pool room who are so passionate about jumping in and playing, especially in that, say, 450 to 550 Fargo range. These guys are they're ate up with playing. They want to play all day, but they don't want to practice. They don't want to really improve to the degree that you see like pro players doing it. When you interview these pro players, they are always talking about how much time they spent in their formative years, right? But these guys that are in that 450 to 550 range, I'd say, or even 600, I guess they just get to a certain point where they just feel like they can get better just by playing. And I think that in my mind, that's what holds us back more than whether it's a bar table or a 9-footer.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that.
I don't know. I push back hard on that. I honestly think that at this point, like if you want to be a good player, and you're going to be a good player no matter what, you're going to get there whether you're doing drills or whether you're just banging balls around. I mean, I think being great at whatever you're doing is a decision just as much as it is a work ethic. The people who want to be a 700 level Fargo or whatever it is, they're not going to stop, whether they're a 400 or whether they're a 600. Now, the only thing that might stop is their ability to get to that level.
Yeah, you can see it in players who have a poor stance, or players who have a jerky stroke, or players who have all kinds of things that you'd look at them and go, how can they even run a rack? But yet,
well, Dennis Graba's like that. He's one of the best players.
and they're getting better, and they're rising to a pretty high level of play. We have those all over the place here in Wisconsin. And you go, wow, how did he ever get any better with a stroke like that? So yeah,
that's that's kind of what I mean. I think you'll always see that person at the pool room that like, I think if you become a top player, I mean, Jim, you could agree or disagree with me if you want here, but like I never did a drill until I was maybe 26 years old. And then when I was 26, I did drills for about 17 seconds and then I quit them right away. Like my entire career has basically just been going, racking the balls, breaking them, shooting, racking the balls, breaking them, shooting.
Yeah,
Like that's
really.
literally all I've done, or playing in tournaments. And I did an interview with Johnny Archer on here.
Yeah.
And Johnny Archer said that by the time that he was like a professional player, like if you removed like the first basically 5 years of his playing career, so you just took like the next 5 years after that where he become a top professional player, he said he practiced he said he could probably count the amount of days that he actually went to a pool room specifically to practice on one hand. He said he just basically for 5 years, he did not practice at all. All he did was play tournaments and all he did was gamble. Now, you can say gambling is practice and, that's definitely a real thing. But what we're kind of talking about with practice here is we're kind of talking about like actually going and working on specific aspects of your game, right? And I just don't think that's I think the biggest decision you can make to be a top player is just the decision to become a top player and putting the work ethic behind it personally.
Yeah, I don't know. When I was young, I did drills. I would make them up and do them at home, and
Sure.
I'd drill on a stop shot, a 6-inch drop
Somebody
shot.
could be great in doing drills, and it's different when you're in competition and you're having to go and play someone pool, because you've seen these ghost challenges where some of these guys, they go and play against someone else. In a tournament setting, it's completely different.
Yeah,
when you have heat on you.
When I was in competition, I've done this at home 15,000 times. Why can't I do it now? And so I would execute it. I didn't have a problem with that.
Because you already prepared, though, right? You prepared for that moment.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You too prepared for it.
I want to clarify something here. Okay, so me personally, I'm also not a drill person. I'm not out there doing drills, and I really just can't stand them. But I recognize the value in them. And I want to say that I'm not trying to say there's one path to this, like Nate, you're right. You can get in there and just brute force play, and you're going to learn, you're going to pick up stuff, of course. What I'm saying though is that I think it's a question of not just individual perseverance, or your own true grit. It's also opportunity, right? So if you set up something around the country with all the different, and I'm talking about on the pool room level, this is what I don't see enough of. I don't see enough of pool rooms setting up opportunities for people to be able to see where they're at. Number one.
Honestly, I love your idea of like that Germany
too.
where you make like one team. Like, I think that's amazing. And I think this is what I think that this is why every pool room should have some sort of house pro that is on the staff, on payroll, and organizes these things, because the pool room owners can't do it, right? They have way too much on their plate already. Hire yourself an actual pool room or an actual house pro, even if you're only paying them $100 a week or something. Find somebody who's a great player in your area that'll work for whatever, and have them organize this. How amazing would that be, John? If that German system was built in the U.S.
Yeah,
that would be
great. Yeah. I'll give you guys an idea that I saw in China that worked. It seemed to work. In most of the pool rooms where I went to in China, they would have one or two house pros in there. And the way that it worked financially is that when you went in, you could play the house pro, but you would pay a higher amount per hour for table time. And that pro would instruct you if you wanted instruction. You just tell him what you want. You're basically paying for his time. And or he would just play with you, or even gamble if that's what you wanted to do. But you're paying extra for access to that person. And that seemed to work pretty well, because most of the places where I went, the pro was always engaged in some way or another with somebody. So, that could be a way, because one of the things with pool rooms is just money. It's literally finding the money sometimes to add another person to the staff, if that person is somehow not producing some income. So, there's always that balancing act there, I think. And I can tell you from my perspective as a new pool room owner, that if I can afford to pay somebody to be that person, then I will. So I'm always looking for how to figure that out, because I believe that the pool room is where you deepen the love of the game for whoever walks through the door. So that's the way I see it.
Nice.
Well, Jim, does anything like that exist in the Netherlands?
Nope. Yeah, there's always somebody in the club. There's always somebody in the club that that you can get in contact with. That'll give you lessons or whatever. Like we've got in the club that I'm a member of, that I play for. They've got a pool school, they call it, and they get all the kids together, and the kids come round once a week, and they're taught from a very young age the very, very basics, you know. They sort of go through the system until, you know, you start to see which ones maybe have a future and which ones are just, you know, maybe decide themselves it's not for them, or they get to a certain age where there's all the distractions in their life and pool is not the priority. And you see that every so often you see one or two that come through where you think, hold on a minute, this guy's got talent. Let's not forget, you've got to have talent. You can turn around and say it's a mental thing that if you want to be a top player, you'll be a top player. No, if you want to be as good as you can be, you will be as good as you can be.
Jim's right.
That's all you can do mentally within yourself, is be the best that you can be. You're still restricted by your own talent as well. You know, there's some players that they could do all the things right, all the drills, everything. They could be practicing all the time, playing all the tournaments, but for some reason it just doesn't click for them, and they just don't have that extra bit of talent. They don't have that extra something that you need in order to make it to the elite level in any kind of sport. You have to just have that, and it's luck. You didn't deserve it. You were just born with it. It was given to you, and you've just been very fortunate that the talent that was given to you, you've actually found that. You know.
Didn't you just have a young lady there that won a snooker championship, Jim, in the Netherlands?
Not sure.
Recently, I just saw that on the internet.
We've got a very good three cushion player in the Netherlands, one that's won a lot, men and women. But yeah, go back to Mike. Mike could be the best. I don't know. He could be the best tiddlywinks player that the world has ever seen. He's never played the game, so he's never found out. You know, somebody like a Roger Federer or Rafa Nadal. They were born with the talent to play tennis. They were lucky enough that somebody gave them a tennis racket when they were young, and they went and played it. They enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it's got to be the perfect storm to go and
exactly. So many things have to happen for you, and these elite players are just the cream of the crop. They have everything that was necessary to be it, and you also have to have that. I can try my hardest to be the best soccer player the world's ever seen, but it's never going to happen, regardless of how fit I am, how many hours I put in, who helps me. If you don't have the talent, you don't have the talent. It's as simple as that, you know? So what you need to do is you need to have a system where you give young people and you give anybody the opportunity to find out whether or not they have a talent, or whether they just even have an enjoyment for the game, you know? Pool is a game where everybody's played it. You will never meet somebody in your life who hasn't bar somewhere and someone says, shall we hit a ball here? Take the cue, try this. You know, you go up to an old lady in the supermarket.
But it's tougher here in America because the liquor licenses and laws.
Yes, you have that restriction.
With having minors in these bar rooms, you know.
We don't have that. If you can come in at any age. If you're with an adult who is there with you, you know, your guardian at that time, and you're not drinking alcohol, of course, then you can go in at any age you want and you can play. So yeah, we have younger kids in there playing with it, and they have access to it. You guys don't really have that access.
Room. People under the age of 21 by not having hard alcohol in the pool room, only beer. And the local ordinance, the people in charge there let me go with that. And as long as I policed it, myself had somebody on board who wasn't going to let, these 16-year-old kids drink beer on the spot, and they were okay with that. But I live in a very small town.
Well, that's what we have.
Like Oklahoma City, it's a small town.
We have beer and wine, and with that type of license in Oklahoma City, we can let minors in, and which we do. So every weekend, we have a 40 player junior league that comes in on Sundays and plays.
Oh, isn't that nice?
And then they have some other ones throughout the state, that are really good. And Joey Gray is doing a lot of work with juniors in the region. So
Good
there's
for him.
that. Let me segue though and ask you and promote an idea that I think would promote pool on the local level that anyone could do. You know, any city, any town, people can do this. Talking about giving people the opportunity to find their talent, you know, and see if this is something they enjoy enough to pursue. An idea that I've had is to promote pool locally by going to festivals, by going to malls, getting all the local leagues to pitch in, get the rooms to pitch in, and whatever it costs, you know, for these like a local arts festival here maybe costs $1,000 for a booth space, right? So maybe you need 2 booth spaces for a pool table, but you set that up, everybody chips in, which is not going to be that much. You know, we've got 5 or 6 major pool rooms here. And then we've got 4 major leagues. You know, the cost for that is going to be negligible for each of us. And then we staff it with volunteers from the local leagues and the pool players. And the whole idea behind that is to get in front of 500,000 people in 10 days and say, hey, this is pool. This is pool in Oklahoma City. You know, this is why we love the game. You want to try it. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure.
Anything to get rid of the stigma from the
Anything.
70s and 80s.
Anything
From
to
the,
get
you know,
that stigma.
the color of money and the hustler. Anything to get rid of that stigma that surrounds pool, I'm all for.
You know, we
See,
have
we
an
don't-
owner here in my hometown that has free pool 24/7, 7 days a week. They're bar tables, but it's free.
But is there any direction there when people come in? You know, so I know like down in Texas, for example, there also used to be a lot of free pool happening in the Clicks chains. People could come in throughout the day and play. But when I traveled through Texas and I saw that, you know, I could go into any of these places in the afternoons and play, and they wouldn't be very populated, but there was also no engagement. You know, they would hand me a rack of balls and we would go off to the side and play, but there was nobody coming over and saying, hey, are you guys from here? Are you interested in leagues? Are you interested in, you know, in learning?
Right.
Anything like that?
Yeah, that's what I do. I volunteer to do that just about every day.
That would be, you know, I think we need more of that then.
Yeah.
More of what you're doing.
Yeah, at least 3 hours a day. I'm going now every day to this place, this bar, and I'm engaging with now. The couple kids came in last week, right? Don't know much about pool at all, but boy, are they energetic? Are they interested?
Mhm.
And so I just say, "Come on, what do you want? What do you want to know? Let's go." And give them a little tidbit, you know, just give them something little. You don't want to give them a whole bunch because they're just learning.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think just to clear, like JJ says in the comments, that those movies are the reason a lot of players started playing. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all. The only thing that you can kind of see with Ed Ladawi's comments in that player or the parents in New Jersey aren't willing to let their kids go into a pool room because they don't want them to be, I think as Ed said it, exposed to that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, the element.
Let's just once and for all shut down this whole idea that the color of money that has been the blot on the pool world. It's not. It's been the players that have played the game since the color of money and that haven't changed. Haven't changed.
I don't argue
the
at all.
idea of what pool is. You know,
Absolutely.
There was an opportunity.
That's exactly what I'm going to say. Regardless.
Yeah, but there's shitheads everywhere you go. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. There's shitheads everywhere.
Yeah, okay, but some of the big shitheads in other sports at the top of the game as much, you know.
Yeah, I'm just like
pointing fingers. Get rid of
debts, Molina.
Pay your debts. No, I agree. I think a lot of people were exposed to the game that way, but they were exposed to the game in a way that and they've perpetuated this. They've prolonged it. But like the idea is like, I mean, has anybody walked into a pool room and actually had anything like that ever happen? I mean, sure, it happens every now and then, and that's, you know, part of the reason maybe why it continues on. But like those things don't happen on a golf course. I mean, certainly not nearly as often. So like the idea is there's enough public. There's enough things that go on in the public. Correct, right? Correct. But the idea is
I've thrown more golf clubs than I have pool cues.
Yeah. Well, I can't.
You've broken more golf clubs.
I've broken more golf
I don't
clubs
know.
than I have pool
Yeah.
cues. Trust me.
Yeah.
That might be true too. But like the idea is like it happens enough in pool, and I agree. Like I mean, pool is kind of a misfit sport, right? I think that's pretty true across the board, at least as a generality, as opposed to other sports. But I mean, there's enough that goes on in pool that maintains the reputation that we can't get rid of. And of course, there's a lot of counter examples to that, but there's also plenty that go on and, you know, go and air barrel somebody from 6,000 miles away, or, you know, beat somebody up at 3 a.m. in the middle of a bar. Like there's a lot of shit that happens in this sport that maintains and perpetuates these stereotypes that the color of money and the hustler expressed to the general public. And really what we're talking about is the general public outside of pool that only looks in from across, you know, the world, and they're only seeing it every now and then. And when they do see it, it perpetuates what they already think happens as a generality.
Well, it's the only
sport.
sport where you can be at somewhere till like 2 a.m., you know, and you're there with alcohol involved, you know, like till that late at night,
I don't know if I would, you know, agree with that. I bet you that in the tennis world and the golf world, you know, there's a lot of stories about people having.
Well, you're probably right, John. Yeah, I mean,
played it.
No, I'm not arguing with that at all.
The problem, the difference with pool is that
pool doesn't exist in the mainstream at all, and tennis and golf do.
You don't see that behavior from the professionals in those other sports. You see it from the amateurs, perhaps. You know, like I said, if you were to follow me, I mean, I played golf for like 20 years. If you were to follow me around the golf course every single week with a camera, you'd see me doing some pretty nasty things. You'd see me throwing stuff into the water. You'd see me, you'd see me smashing my clubs. You'd see me swearing and cussing. But I'm not a professional. I don't need to be seen by, you know, and the problem is that the professionals in the pool world do not yet know, or too many of them do not know and haven't known for the last 20 years what it means to be a professional sportsman, a professional athlete, if you want to call it. And that's because the sport's never been properly professionalized, you know? So everybody gets the same, you know, you're not going to see Tiger Woods or Roger Federer or Rafa Nadal playing on somebody's stream who just happens to take a camera along with them and start filming one of their practice sessions. It's not allowed. It doesn't happen. You won't get anywhere near them. Whereas if you have two guys who are just in a bar, two pros who say, hey, do you want to play for a couple of sets for $50 a ball? And they both had a couple of shots. Somebody's there with a camera. Somebody's there with a telephone. Boom, live stream, Facebook. These two guys are about to go at it against each other. And then something stupid happens and it goes everywhere. Then everybody sees it. That's the problem, you know?
How can, you know, there's a couple things I want to push back here, or just ask, you know.
Sure.
Number one is, I think that both the Hustler and the Color of Money have gotten a bad rap because the whole point of both of those movies was to pursue pool and in its most excellent form, you know, in its highest, to basically, maybe we need to have a podcast where we break down those movies, and that's out there as something people can look at.
Oh, yeah.
But both of those movies were less about pursuing the hustling life and much more about getting to the professional side of it, where you are playing pool for absolutely the best you can play flat out and being known as the best. Yeah. So, you know, there's that. And I think a lot of people, including me and you know, probably generations of players, my speed, only focused on the hustling cowboy, you know, gunslinger aspect of it, rather than taking the message from the very end of those movies.
That's a good point, John, because I agree with you. That you can find an excuse to why something failed in anything, you know, absolutely. or you can choose to go and look at that message at the end, you know, when it all kind of comes together, and take that from it.
So the next part of that is, you know, when Jim says, for example, that you don't see these players doing these things in other sports, well, just on the behavior aspect, right? I think that we can, I think we can agree, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably don't watch as much pro pool as you guys do. But in general, I don't see the Europeans or the Asians acting out as much as I do the Americans.
Because they've done it once before when they were maybe a little bit younger, and they were hit hard for it, and they realize they can't behave like that. In the States, when they do it, they get a little bit of a slap on the wrist, or they have done in the past, and they're still allowed to play in all the tournaments.
What do you mean?
Whereas
Be
in
a
Europe,
jerk or have a tantrum?
Yeah,
Well, I'm saying like both, you know.
Right.
You're working
Anybody,
with
you're finished.
federation. When you're working with federations and you're representing your country, and your country sees how you represent them, like let's put it this way: if Niels Fine
Help pull the plug.
If Niels Fine tomorrow, like Niels Fine has represented the Netherlands for years and years and years and years. If Niels Fine tomorrow, I don't know, missed a ball and swung his pool cue and hit a ref in the head, the federation is not going to be like, oh, well, we have 20 years of you being a good, a perfect representative of our country. We'll give you a pass this time. They're going to immediately just cut him, and he's never going to play pool for the Netherlands ever again.
Correct.
Like there's no going back, right?
I don't know if it would be
small,
never, but I mean, I think that there would definitely be some kind of a sanction for that.
Pool might need a spark plug like that.
Yeah.
Well, let's get Earl. Where's Earl at?
Yeah.
You talked a little bit.
We'll sacrifice him.
You talked a little bit about golf.
Throw him under the bus again.
Yeah, well, I mean, seriously though, look at all the things that Earl has done in his career. And sure, if you want to say like, that's charming for Earl, whatever, that's fine. We can say it's charming. But the point is he's done a lot of things in his career that he's done more things in his career that would be considered, at least borderline disrespectful to the game / his opponent / himself than probably every single European player and combined. Right. I mean, when was the last time you could name one thing that a European player has done, and you can come up with dozens of things for Earl? And like I said, it doesn't really matter. The point Earl is charming in his own way. Now, I personally, it's wearing thin on me. I've made that very clear several times. But
guys, I got to jump out. I got to go back to work. Enjoy.
Sure.
Okay.
Bye.
Hi, Jim.
Everybody.
The point with that is it doesn't matter. Like the point is like Earl has built a charming kind of whatever you want to say about like the way that he acts. But at the end of the day, like that's one U.S. player, and there's dozens of others examples of people who are not nearly as successful as Earl who do this stuff too.
You could have personality without being disrespectful, though.
Sure,
and I think I think Poole needs more personality.
Yep.
Well, and I think part of that comes from as Jim was saying, and as Nate said, how do we, as Jim said, they did it once and then they got knocked hard for it. I can tell you that in the clubs that I was in, we had actual rules of decorum that we had to follow. We had hotheads just like everybody else. I was one of them, and I actually grew up emulating Earl in a sense. Now that we're talking about Earl, I mean, I didn't think anything of getting mad and throwing a cue and all that because obviously I was embarrassed, but I mean, I thought, well, you know what? It's the passion. It's how much I love the game, and I'm expressing that without realizing, how much of a jerk that it had made me and how much it affected my opponent. And so when I got into the clubs over there, and they had actual rules of decorum, you had to sign a piece of paper and saying, I agree to do this, and I agree that if I violate these rules, that I'll be demoted from first team if I'm on the first team or even kicked out of the club. And we had boards and we had, we would meet and people would talk about those behavioral issues. So I was able to control myself when I played for the team, and then there would be times when I'd be out gambling or something and I would revert back to type. And if that got back to the team, then they would say something to me. They'd say, look, if you're going to be on the team, John, we know you can play, but we just can't have it being out there that you're part of this team and throwing cues or acting out, And so I learned to calm my ass down and just play pool.
Yeah.
I think Ben Young says it perfect there. It'd be great to have proper consequences, but given by actual sanctioned bodies, but we don't really have a sanctioned body, so that's a
well.
bummer.
I think as
we
pool
have
gets more
WPA.
professionalized, though, like they're going to force their hand. As it becomes
nothing
more
else,
professionalized, if you have more knucklehead moments, you're going to force their hand to go and have them make an example out of you.
And if nothing else, like let's take an extreme example. Let's let's look at something like football with like Ray Rice. We all correct me if I'm wrong. We've all seen that video of him where he knocked out his wife or his fiance at the time in an elevator, in a Vegas elevator. And let's just say something like that existed in pool, right? At the end of the day, like Matchroom, sure, WPA might not do anything about that, but let's say Matchroom makes the sport bigger, or Predator. I don't care who. I just want it to be bigger. So I love the work Predator does too. Let's say that one of those two industries makes this sport huge, and we're getting, you know, tiny coverage on ESPN or something like that for, you know, the US Open or something like that. And that player makes it to the, you know, semifinals, and ESPN says, well, this person's in the semifinals, and here's a video of them 6 weeks ago in a Vegas elevator. Why does this industry not care? Like, at the end of the day, whoever it is, whether it's Predator, whether it's Matchroom, business speaks. And if you're getting pulled or you're getting bad news coverage because you're not doing the proper vetting of your players, even if WPA does nothing, eventually some players are just going to be bad for business. And you know, even if the individual companies themselves have to start saying, all right, you're no longer coming to our events, hopefully it'll happen eventually, even if there isn't a sanctioned body, an organized sanctioned body that actually will make these decisions. Hopefully, in a capitalistic society, business decides what's best for business. And, you know, maybe that's how we see the future of this.
Remember that another adage of that is that no press is bad press. So, you know, remember we would talk about when they had tournaments in the 80s and McEnroe would act out, you know, then the coverage would be about McEnroe's actions more than the tournament results.
Well, I'll say this: Putin doesn't agree with that statement right now. That's why he's shutting all of the press down.
That's true too. Yeah, I like the comment earlier about somebody.
Well, no, I mean there's a fine line between all press is good press, and, you know, if all of your stories are constantly negative, you know, that's going to form a narrative around things too. Like the idea.
But you see, no, but you can fade it though. It just depends, because I've seen a constant stream of it or not. If it's a constant stream of bad press, that's bad. But if you get to sprinkle things in here every now and then, it's, you know, all press. You have the NCAA that'll have players, top quarterbacks that'll be in national championship games or whatever, and then you'll go and have TMZ come out with the tweet from when the kid was 13 years old saying some racist stuff, you know, or whatever. And they'll suspend them or they'll Rosen. Whatever it is, you know, but you see it all the time. But my point is, Nate, is that they can fade it. You know, the NCAA can fade it. Those colleges can go and fade it. The sports can go and fade it. And it'd be no different in pool. You know, if it would ever to get there, you know, pool would be able to go. Yeah. If it ever gets to that platform, they wouldn't go and say, oh, we're not going to go and cover it anymore because of this. No, they're going to go and build it up and dramatize it. And, you know,
well,
I agree with that to a point, but what I'm saying is, sure, that tweet is no big deal. But if that tweet leads more people to look into it, and from that tweet you find another tweet, and then you find an Instagram post, and then you find out that you're part of your local Ku Klux Klan meetings. Like, the idea is, if you continue these bad things in a row, that press means something then. If it's a one-off, it's no big deal. If it's over and over and over and over again, then it becomes
even the one-offs will go and get you.
Well,
even the one-offs
will go. They certainly can. Yeah, well, it depends on who you are and how much talent you are.
You better be careful then, Mike.
Yeah, you better watch it, Mike.
My Twitter's constantly getting deleted, buddy.
all I'm saying is Josh Rosen was one of those people that had one of those racist tweets when he was 16 years old or whatever it was, and he's still the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, at the end of the day, like, talent will trump is, you know, how many knucklehead things has Antonio Brown done, but he still gets a chance every single year. You know, at the end of the day, talent will come out, but you have a terrible reputation.
Right? Hustling pool, The Hustler. You mentioned the movie The Hustler. And that aspect of pool being, okay, the gambling aspect of pool, and not like tournament, play, dress codes and all that kind of thing. And then you mentioned golf. Well, I can guarantee you, Lino made way more money in his life hustling golf on a golf course than he did in any tournament he ever won or played in. Absolutely. He made a living hustling golf, playing $100 a hole with anybody who would play with him. And
they had that big match with Tiger and Phil not too long ago where you're gambling. So, I mean, the gambling part of it isn't the issue.
Yeah, but the gambling of that, they were playing for
some parents.
I'm pretty sure they were playing for $14 million. I'm pretty sure they were playing for $14 million. I might be wrong on that. But the reason why that's not a bad thing is because whoever the winner was just they were basically playing for charities. Like whoever won had a 14 million. The other person had to make a $14 million donation to that person's charity. They weren't keeping that money. That money was going to charity.
Even if they had been playing straight up for just themselves and it was a $14 million match, people still would have tuned in and they loved it because, let's be honest, people like that head-to-head competition. They love the edginess of it. They love the gambling. Yeah. If they had got together and played for $1,000, then not as many people would have tuned in as when they're playing for 14 million. So purses, we all know this in pool too. That's why we say 20,000 in the middle rather than playing for 10,000.
The number sounds great. There's a lot of faces of sport though that were notorious gamblers. Go look at Jordan.
Well, yes.
The guy got suspended. The guy got suspended for a year for gambling. I mean, he retired for a year, but he got suspended for a year for gambling.
I got
the Falcons wide receiver. The Falcons wide receiver. Well, hold on, Rob, because I want to say this. Okay, we've all seen the video. We've all watched the video at this point in time. Everyone's seen it. Alex Pegulayan in Vegas last year, where he did one single coin flip for $10,000. Yeah, we all remember that video, right?
Yeah, I watched it.
All I'm saying is when you watch that video for him flipping for $10,000, and then you watch the match of Phil and Tiger playing for $14 million, whatever it was, they don't have the same feel to it. They just don't, right? When you have one person risking 10,000 of your own money to try to win 10,000, they have different feels to them. They're not.
Well, yeah, they definitely do, because the thing is everybody recognizes that a coin flip is literally luck, and you got two of the best guys in the world, going head to head, which you never see in golf. You see them going against the field.
That's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
Right. Yeah.
The raw gambling of the coin flip is, you're right. But like when I'm watching that video, my heart is racing for Alex because I don't know who the other dude was. But like I just feel like I wanted Alex to win that, and my heart is sitting there racing for that. It's just a different feel than when I watch somebody
who won the flip.
Alex lost.
Yeah, he lost. He did. Now I got a question for you guys. Now, all the years, all the pool experience you have between the three of you, all the pool halls you've been in, how many times have you actually seen a pool player hustle somebody? That means a pool player lay down, not play to his ability, just to make money. How many actual times?
Does it have to be an on-purpose hustle?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Okay.
On purpose?
Yeah.
They got to know what they're doing.
No. I've honestly played. So there's this group of I guess Mexican players that come into my local pool room, and they love playing pool and they love gambling pool and they love high roll gamble. Like I think they're all like construction guys and they make decent money. And I think they come in and they'll throw around hundreds of dollars. Just, it's not like it's huge amounts of money, but these guys can't play pool. I mean, these guys are like so terrible. They can barely play pool at all. And they'll come in and they just want to play everybody. They'll just play anybody. So they wanted to play me because I was playing on a table. Well, I wasn't even playing. I was practicing left-handed, honestly. And they watched me play left-handed because I play in a Wednesday night league and I was playing left-handed with my wife. And they wanted to play me for money. And I'm like, they don't speak hardly any English, like barely any English. And I speak a little bit of Spanish. I was trying to basically tell them like, you don't want to play me. You don't want to play me. And basically what it comes down to is we played one game where I played right-handed. And then after that, we would decide if we wanted to play. Well, I played right-handed, and it was one of those racks that were just ugly. Like it's like you break the racks, and solids or stripes just were a clear advantage ball. Like if you got them, it's going to be really hard for you to lose the game. Well, I didn't get the suit that I needed, and I won the game anyways. But because it was such an ugly game, it took forever for me to basically flip the advantage into my favor. I probably had 12 innings at the table, and finally I was able to get my position to be able to run out, and I did. And then they're like, because I had 12 innings at the table, they're like, all right, let's play for money. Does that count as a hustle?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Okay, then I've never hustled.
I'm talking
but I ended up taking
just not.
But I ended up taking up 400 off of
game.
them, and I wanted to quit after every game. After every game, I wanted to quit, and they're like, "No, again." I'm like,
Nah,
"No,
They're contributing
again." So I ended up making like 400 off them, and then they just wouldn't let me leave.
Right. No.
No, that's a different scenario. You know, that's when somebody is just they just want to gamble, and they're not taking into account how good you might be.
Right.
They just want to put money in the middle. And
they just want to play, you know, and you were lucky enough to be there at the moment to be able to scoop it up. But to answer your question, Robert, I've been in pool rooms all over the world. And I have seen some form of hustling in the pool rooms that I've spent any time in. I've seen some form of hustling in just about every one of them, including my own last night, you know. There's guys that have been around Oklahoma City for the last 40 years, and they know how to set the hook, and they actually still run the routes. You know, they go down towards Houston. They go wherever they know the spots are, where they can settle in for a little bit. You know, be friendly. They know exactly who they're looking for. And you know, as far as somebody just walking in and off the street, and then the regulars, you know, kind of trying to trap them in a game. No, I don't see that very often.
Okay.
But I do see people who are deliberately targeting certain players because they know that these people are apt to want to gamble and are not able to make a game properly. And they see them as marks and they take them off. Okay. You know, and this happens all the time, and it happens at every level. You know, the last year and a half, Mike knows this, we had several matches here in Oklahoma City, high profile matches.
Right.
And if you circled around the room, you would find various games happening. And some of those games were games that people on one side of it were in a bad game.
Had no business being in.
And they were in a bad game. And I'll just say it. I'll say it plainly as I can say it. I was on the wrong side of that a couple times. Because, you know, I'm the type of person that the people who are smarter than me in pool will target, you know, and I'm not alone. There's lots of people like me who love to play, who love to gamble, can't make a game.
John, what are you doing later?
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to fly down.
But see, the difference, like in pool, though, we have to go and talk about these numbers because pool doesn't have any numbers. Like if you go to any golf tournament, they're not saying we're playing for 25 million. You don't see it. But if you go and look down on the payouts, you can see that it's quite a substantial amount of money. If you go look at the NFL when they're playing in the playoffs,
$2 million for the winner nowadays.
Each of them will get a check if you win the game or not. You know, but they don't go. Right. They're glamorizing the titles of it. But in pool, we don't have stuff like that. So we go and say, oh, we're playing for 20,000 in the middle, or we're playing for 30,000 because those are big numbers in the game. Like relatively speaking, I mean.
I saw there was we think that pool's in a bad spot, and to be honest, it's not in a great spot. We all know this, but it's getting better. So let's start there. I saw a major tournament this last weekend, an English 8-ball tournament, a major tournament this past weekend. And I saw the winner of it. He was holding up a check, and on that check was $4,000. It's this massive check. It's like the size of his body, and it's $4,000. And at least pool is not at that point where you're making up a giant check for snapping off a pool tournament, and it's $4,000. Like,
well, I've seen it in pool.
I'm not trying to. I'm not. Well, I have to, honestly. But like, I'm not trying to disrespect that tournament. I'm not trying to disrespect that sport. I'm not trying to disrespect anything. But when you are celebrating with a giant check, a $4,000 win for first place, that's sad. I mean, that's bad. I mean, I just hate the idea of it.
Yeah. What was the context, Nate? Though, I mean, who was celebrating? Was it an amateur player who won?
I to be honest, you know what, JJ's in the comments. JJ is one of the best English 8-ball players in the world. So JJ, it was an English 8-ball tournament. You can tell me what it was if you think
Chris
about
Melling
it.
just won one.
No, yeah, this was a different one. But
okay.
And honest, I don't even know what the tournament was. I don't know enough English 8-ball to be able to really talk educatedly about it. I just saw a picture of it, and it was like by this organization. He had a $4,000 check on it. So. I mean, I'm sure JJ will probably chime in because he's the all-knowing of.
Yeah. What I want to say about that, though, is I think that depending on the context, that might be the biggest win that person ever had. That might be the highlight of their whole pool career for the rest of their life.
Well, no, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to denigrate the player. I'm not. The player, be happy with it, be excited. I mean, you did a great thing. The idea that you're creating a giant check for a $4,000 first prize is the part that I'm saying, not the player. I'm not trying to denigrate the player at all. You had an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of symbolism to that, because we've seen in other individual sports, tennis, golf, for example.
So yeah,
they used to have that big giant check thing, and so now people come to associate that.
Yeah.
With success.
I get it.
Emulations happening, that we try to be bigger than we are.
I think there should be the government regulation on it. Like you can, if
there's got to be a minimum.
Some more.
The check is for less.
The IRS will tell you when you're allowed to.
Yes, exactly. If the purse is less than $100,000, then you can't have a giant check. But we'll prorate it all the way down. We'll prorate it all the way down to a regular size, and a regular size is $150. So if you have a $4,000, you can prorate that up.
Yeah, that side. This side. Yeah, right there.
No, I think it's
for you little guys.
Yeah, I just yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird situation. I guess to talk about JJ. JJ said the whole jumping on the table drives him crazy as a pool owner. I mean, I think I get the idea of it, but it's like I think the Moscone Cup, the person who's buying that table, because of course they're selling that at the end of it. Whoever's buying that table loves the idea that Jason Shaw's and Joshua Filler's dirty, disgusting feet are all over it.
Let's get over that. All right. The table, that's not a problem.
That's no
people aren't doing that in pool rooms. They're not. I've never seen a person jump on a table other than those particular situations. And I think that that's just overblown.
Yeah.
Have you ever had sex on a pool table?
Whoa, Rob, what are you?
Okay.
Yeah, I have, and I don't recommend it.
A
pool table is absolutely not the good place to have sex.
What? This conversation just took a turn, boys. What
Rob,
are we doing here?
This is a respectable show. There are children watching.
Right, we're talking about the reputation of pool, and Robert's like, how can we use pool tables for other means?
Yeah,
right. Jeez.
Laundry. Have you ever had laundry on your pool table?
Well, they say they say the best way to stop playing pool is to buy a pool table, because then you'll have the most expensive clothes folding table that you've ever had in your life.
Yeah, we have a little place where we buy bait for fishing on the flowage here where I live, and if you go into this little store, he's got this most beautiful antique 8-foot pool table I'd ever seen. And it is piled 6 feet high with all kinds of boxes and things that he's trying to use it for storage. And
we can't help it. That's when you know that somebody's not 100% dedicated to pool if they let stuff pile on their table. And I admit I have had times where my table has been so full of crap. It's just I'm ashamed. So there we go. We can start a campaign called "Keep Your Damn Pool Table Clean."
And that includes you, Team Europe, and your dirty, grimy feet.
Hey, let's have people send us pictures of their pool table with all kinds of stuff on it.
You're gonna get flooded.
We're gonna get flooded. Nate,
somebody went in a Scotch guard Darren's feet on his footprint on the table.
Oh no, not what I said. No, we don't want those pictures.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever searched for that on
Rob?
What's that?
Oh, Jesus. I don't think I can get Rob and John in the same podcast anymore.
Oh, boy. On that note, Nate.
Austin Hill in next time.
But pool does lend itself to that kind of innuendo, I mean,
oh yeah.
Well, it's something, isn't it?
I have a pool cue that I won in San Diego. It was a wonderful pool cue. The guy didn't have any money, so he gave me a stick. And the pool hall I was playing in Key West, Florida, got closed by the state of Florida for some type of fraud or whatever it was. And they impounded that cue stick, and I never got it back. Oh,
fun.
Okay.
So there's that. And we've gotten all this time. We haven't talked about any timely relevant pool. How fun is that?
Well,
How
there
about
wasn't
the
a lot
idea
of stuff
of
going
two
on.
WPA sanctioned events happening on top of each other? Is that good or bad?
Yeah.
I think it's honestly, I think it's great. Call me a weirdo.
Great?
I think it's great. I think it's great. Absolutely, I think it's great.
More pool events that happen better, but yeah, that
it's natural selection, man. I mean, this is at the end of the day.
Ooh.
At the end of the day, if people start scheduling stuff over the Euro Tour and European players have to decide whether they want to go to, let's say, the U.S. Open, for example, or and that won't happen, of course, because the Matchroom works with the Euro Tour. But let's just say the U.S. Open is one weekend and a Euro Tour is another. Either the Euro Tour is going to have to step up their game and make it so that their event is just as sought after as other events, or they're going to go bye-bye. And at the end of the day, like, do you think that Mario E and Joshua Filler are going to stay in Europe for a Euro Tour with the way that the current dynamics is? If there's an event in the U.S. that's a better option, I mean, I'm picking on the Euro Tour because the Euro Tour is notorious for getting amazing fields but having terrible payouts. And there's a lot of WPA events that also fit that criteria that that I could pick on too. But I don't know. I'm going to pick on the Euro Tour because it's going on right now.
It seems like a pissing contest. And as a fan of pool, first of all, I love pros playing big table 8-ball. So I want to preface it with that. But I think majority of the players are going to be at the Matchroom event versus the Predator event. That's just my gut, is what it tells me. But I would love to see a lot of those guys go and play, which I think is what the event is. It's big table 8-ball, the World 8-ball Championships. So I think it's unfortunate, but I think it is a little bit of a pissing contest. And I wish they could go and try to figure out a way to work together. And Matchroom schedule was already out. So, and I'm sure Predator had that date locked up for the last 6 months plus. It's just, I don't know. I bet you there's not much that they could have gone and done.
Yeah, just like I think just like what is it? What is the event? Is it the U.S. Opens are scheduled at the same time as the World 9-ball? Is that right?
Yeah, but it's like Banks, One Pocket, and what else is it? It's like 3 events.
Banks, One Pocket,
like
8-ball, and 10-ball, right?
I think so. Yeah,
and maybe straight pool.
Yeah.
But like the idea, and then there's I think there's the World Cup of Pool and the Germany Open, I think is what it is, for the Predator and so like the idea is like at the end of those are scheduled at the same time as well. Like at the end of the day, we're talking about events that are butting up that are major events. Like the Germany Open is at least has the potential to be a major event. It's one of the Predator tour stops, and the U.S. Open has been a staple of U.S. pool for how long now? But no one is going to sit here and argue that. Let's just say the International Open, because that's not a huge tournament, or Derby City or something like that. If those events are at the same time as the U.S. Open, that the U.S. Open is going to draw a crowd. We saw it last year. Hardly anybody went to the U.S. Open because there was some other major event that was going on. I don't remember what was scheduled over top of it, but there was a major event that happened, and almost nobody went to the U.S. Open. So they're great events and they're huge, but.
We saw it a few years back at the last Expo. They were doing the World Pool Masters during the time of the SB, and we've seen it before.
But with those small fields, like I'm less worried about those because they're small fields, right? You're only pulling away 24 players, and of those 24 players, maybe
but those are like the best players on. Those
are
the best players on Earth, though.
Well, maybe 20 of them would have been there. Maybe 20.
Let's talk about it in context of the Moscone Cup. Players that are vying for that, I think that they're always going to want to go to whatever tournaments they know for sure are being looked at as far as who gets picked for these events. At least, and to my mind, right, that's going to be like, let's just say, for example, the top 20 players in the world that are eligible for the Moscone Cup, and unfortunately we're excluding the Asians, we're excluding the Canadians and so on. But there's a big potential, I think, because of that extra event that happens that's so popular and people and so prestigious, and it's a guaranteed money for the people who do get picked. There's the potential there that knowing that participation in this event this weekend lessens their chances, and participation in this one increases their chances. That is also a draw away from other high profile events. Do you agree or disagree?
1,000% agree with you. Whether
Yeah,
it's
I think-
whether
I think it
it's
depends on
spoken
the
or
player.
not, you know.
I think
Whether
it
it,
depends on the player, though.
no,
Shane
I
and
don't
Sky
think
don't
so.
have to worry about it. Shane and Sky have nothing to worry about. They'll get a wild card if nothing else, because who are you going to pick on top of them? But at the idea, like all the players basically past them, I agree with you.
And I think that applies mostly, in my opinion, to the people from Europe too. In America, I don't think that we have as everybody knows, we don't have as deep a pool of players that could credibly form a winning Moscone Cup team. And I believe you guys have talked about that plenty. But there's always that outside chance, that some of the lower tier players, and when I say lower tier, I'm talking about like in the 750 range, could get picked and be on the team. So that's a draw. But basically in Europe, you're talking about a real genuine pool of 15 to 20 players who any 5 of those players can form a credibly strong team, world class, right?
Right.
World elite. And
it'll be one of those things where it's like if it's an open event and they choose to go and play, that 8-ball event over a matchroom event, like that's kind of one of those things where like you're writing it down and you're putting it in your pocket, because you're gonna know about it for next time.
Do you guys think that Matchroom should have like some sort of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know whether they do or not, but do you think that they should have some sort of open system where they say, well, this event assigns this many points, this event assigns this many points?
Well, they do now, though, right?
And,
they do.
Yeah, it's
right.
weighted.
How much money you make.
So my question is this, is there, if a player decides to go to another WPA event or another big event and not to a Matchroom event, does that hurt them just from a participation standpoint? Like if they finish high in the other event or they finish high in the Matchroom event, is it relatively equal as far as the amount of
they'll get more money from the other event, but that money won't be put towards where they're going to be ranked at on the Matchroom event. So
yeah,
they won't move up.
How the
right.
I guess I guess do you know how the Matchroom rankings is working now? I don't want to ask that question.
I think I need to be brought up to speed, but
because that's what it sounds like to me. Yes.
Is that what they're using for the Moscone Cup picks?
Correct. So the Matchroom ranking points now for the events that certify towards it, you are literally given points based off how much money you make. So for every dollar that you make in that tournament, you get 1 ranking point. So if you snap off a tournament, like if you snap off Francisco Sanchez Ruiz snapped off the big or the Derby City 9-ball, he made $10,000. He has 10,000 points.
So it's that 1 for 1 on the dollars, regardless
1 for 1 on the dollars. So
regardless of where you earn it.
Yes. So then last week that Wojtek Szewczak got second at the Euro Tour and first place went to Victor Zielinski won it and Joshua Filler got second. So Victor Zielinski would have gotten whatever a Euro Tour pays, $4,000, $5,000, something like that. And that basically, yeah. So he would have gotten $4,000 ranking points, and Joshua Filler would have gotten 2,000 something. I don't know exactly how much a Euro Tour pays.
So does Matchroom take in all the tournaments a person plays in, or is there a certain?
It is only the tournaments that they certify.
Okay.
And they're all 9-ball, so it's like all these 10-ball events are just
nothing.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because we've had a few years of those tournaments in China, Chinese 8-ball and so on, where a guy goes and he wins 50,000 or more, and then it skyrockets him to the leaderboard of money.
So after sorry, I'm going to cut you off here, but this is after the Derby City Classic. This was the world rankings immediately after the Derby City Classic. As you can see, basically everywhere that you see money in there, that's literally how much they made. So,
okay.
And if you look at the Derby City Classic, I mean, this is what it was. So Francisco won it. He had 16,000 points. or 16,000 points, $16,000. Joshua Filler got second in that. He got 8,000. Yeah, that's how it works. So
in this scenario, the tournament now that we started the conversation with was 2 WPA sanctioned events that are going to be held on the same time frame. Are both of those Matchroom points events, or
only if they're 9-ball and they're certified by Matchroom. So the ranking events on their calendar is the Derby City, the Euro Tour that just finished up a little bit ago, the World Pool Championships, the Euro Tour, another Euro Tour, the UK Open, the Sandcastle 9-ball Open, which Ed Ladawi will be running because, well, he's in the comments. So let's see here. Another Euro Tour, the Sandcastle 9-ball Open, another one of Ed's events, the US Open, the International Open, the European Open, another Euro Tour.
All big 9-ball events, right?
All 9-ball. Has to be 9-ball.
Yeah. Okay, so that also answers the question. If someone decides, well, if they're going to go to a big 8, the World 8-ball, for example, then they know they've got no chance to get any Moscone points,
right?
For that, and that's a decision that they make as a player.
But it has other things down the road that go in effect too, John, because as these rankings go and get in place, you're going to get automatic bids for these invitationals, the World Masters, the Championship
Premier
League
League
pool, the Premier League pool,
even to a lesser degree, the World 9-ball, even to a lesser degree that.
Yeah, so it's like if you don't go and earn yourself these points, then you for sure are just locking up that you're not going to be invited to the party at all, or you're not going to have the chance to go and get there.
Which honestly, I'm okay with, right? Because the idea, if you're not gonna work to promote the industry by partaking in it, why should you get the benefits from it?
Wait, but you're saying industry though, like it's not industry because they're still putting on pool events. It's just not 9-ball. There's a difference.
Okay, so no. Well, I'm thinking people like, let's say Josh Roberts. Everybody knows Josh Roberts is one of the most talented players in the U.S. When was the last time you've seen him play at an actual event? Very rarely,
Really?
And it's usually regional stuff. But the idea is like
he'll play Derby and International. You're not gonna. I doubt you're gonna go and see him at the German Open or the World 9-ball.
A lot of that is money. Pure.
Sure.
He's like 7th or 8th on the money winning list this year so far. Josh is.
Like, I think I put up a question the last Matchroom event that happened. I'll be honest, it happened in the same time frame that I bought the pool room, so I really wasn't paying attention. But and you guys please tell me the accurate information, but it felt to me like it took 2 weeks. It felt like for at least like 10 days or something, every day I saw results of a match. Yeah. And I was just wondering to myself, who's paying the expenses for these guys to stay over in Europe for so long?
Matchroom is. So
they are. So is that a purely invitational thing?
Well,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You're talking about Premier League pool. Yes, that is.
Yeah, that's
Matchroom,
what I was talking about.
Correct. Matchroom pays that. Yes.
Okay, and that's fantastic that they do. But I can tell you from my just deep experience, and I'm sure you guys have it too. But in the past 35 years, I've seen way more world-class broke players than I have, really financially successful ones.
Sure. And because of the last 35 years, all these, especially the US players, they're so jaded to the idea that anybody would actually be doing something good for the industry that they refuse to partake in it completely. They refuse to partake in anything that happens. So, Matchroom is not coming into the US and saying like, hey, just trust us for, well, I mean, they might with the prize purses sometimes potentially, but like the point is they're not coming in here and saying like, just give up a little bit right now. We'll take care of you later on. Like the Matchroom is just saying like, all right, you're going to play in our events. Come on over. Here we go. Here you go. Here's your travel. Here's your costs. That's not for all of their stuff, of course. Like if you want to play in the UK Open, they're obviously not covering your stuff there. But if you want to go over and play in the match or the Moscone Cup, like they're going to be covering you to go over there. Plus they're going to be giving you a paycheck. The idea that all these US players are
entirely true
refusing,
though, because I think they're copping the hotel. I think flight wise, they're paying their way. So to go and travel from Europe to Europe is a lot less expensive than going and traveling from, Texas to the UK.
Sure.
Big difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like the idea is like they're not paying you $1,000 and then slapping you with $3,000 in costs when you get over there, right?
No,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
And I'm not trying to say that Matchroom is like perfect with what they do either. Like I'm not trying to say that, but the point is like they're not. Matchroom isn't like telling you like, hey, you need to post $3,000, and if you get last place, we're going to pay you $0. Like there's with all their invitational stuff, you're getting some money back out of it, or they're covering your travels. Or both.
Just to reply to Ed's comments, I'm not saying invitationals are points. What I'm saying is you get invited to invitationals based off of points. So it's like you have to go and attend those events in order to get points. And then if you're within that 20 or whatever it is, those automatic bids, then you don't got to guess whether or not you're going to get invited to the World Pool Masters. Yep. You're going to know your ass is going to be there because you've earned the right to go and be on that stage.
And what I'm saying is these American players that have, talent to be able to play with these players, they refuse to. They refuse to travel. They refuse to go to events that aren't small regional events, and maybe not even small regional events, bigger, like the Scotty Townsend's it's not a small regional event. I mean, that's a big regional event, but it's still just a regional event. Like at the end of the day, like it's a tour stop for a lot of players who are, traveling around the country. But at the end of the day, like no one's going to come from Europe for that event. If they're already here, they'll go and play at it. But the idea is like, if the only tournaments that as an American you will go to are like these types of tournaments, and then you wonder why you don't get invited to stuff, like it's just ridiculous to think that you should get. I wouldn't mind seeing Matchroom pull all invites completely from American players who refuse to play in anything. Like,
okay, but
why?
My question is though, when we talk about refusal, are we looking at what these players are financially able to do?
Well, okay.
Yeah, but hold on, John. Whose responsibility is it though? Like,
don't even start with me with that because Shane Wolford is going to every single one of these events, and Shane Wolford can't compete anywhere close with Josh Roberts. So you can't tell me that these players don't have
Shane's getting a lot better.
I don't know.
Shane's getting a lot better.
Shane is getting a lot better, correct? And how long has he been doing this? Since he's been doing this for a year and a half. You can't tell me when he started this. He was able to do that. Right?
Let's be real.
He's a kid.
Let's be real here, okay? Shane,
I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm just saying, if he can find a way to do it, then anyone can find a way to do it.
Well, no, I don't agree with that because Shane has resources. He has his dad is 100% behind him, of course. He's got the pool room. He's got a local community. He definitely has resources behind him. That
this is one player. How about Tyler Steyer?
Though, but when we talk about opportunity,
how about Chris Reinhold? Like these players aren't cashing in a lot of these tournaments, but yet they're still there every single time.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you that there's a lot of personal responsibility there. Yeah. And I also agree that with enough planning, players should be able to figure out how to finance their way.
And if you can't find sponsors to help you with it, is that on you or is that on the sponsors? Because there's Tyler Steyer.
It's an interesting question to go and ask John Barton. I can tell you that much.
I'll be happy to answer it from an industry standpoint if you want.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, the number one thing I want to say is that rumors of financial ability in the pool industry are greatly exaggerated. So a lot of companies don't have as much money as people think they have. So there's that, like people constantly think that I'm a millionaire, for example, off of these cases, but it's just simply not true. Now there are companies, of course, that are, making millions in revenue, but we don't know what their profit margins are. We don't know how much extra they've got to put into players. But I can tell you that from what I do know from the last 35, 40 years, companies are just not as big. They don't quite have as much money as people think they do. So there's that. So you have to be real judicious in what you're paying for.
Right. But there's a lot of players that'll go and bust their ass for their sponsors. And then there's an even more amount of players that won't go and do anything. And you're going and pulling teeth to have them go and make a Facebook post, if they go and win an event.
Well, that's absolutely true.
And that's the bare minimum of what they can go and do.
Or to just even thank their sponsors for the opportunity to even play in that event because they got them there. I know a lot of players that will, they'll get a backing from, company X, and then they'll go and they'll post all day long about how they're doing in their match, and not a single one of those posts have anything to do with their sponsor. That the reason that they're there is because of it. At the end of the day, like there are plenty of players in this industry who make themselves desired because of the things that they do. Tyler Steyer is a perfect example of that. Chris Reinhold is a perfect example of that. Neither one of those players, I'm guessing if you added up if they played together, or if they played 50 events last year, which if you combine their events, I bet it's pretty close to 50 events between the two of them. I bet that they cashed in less than 20 of them. And I'm guessing that neither one of them won a tournament last year, not a big tournament anyways. So you have two players that they're absolutely, by the time that you take all of their finances just for the tournaments that they're playing, and I'd almost bet money they're both far negative last year by the time you throw hotels, flights, food, all this stuff
Yeah,
into
but
your
if they have
travel
backers
costs.
to go and pay or sponsors to go and pay their events,
this is my exact point. They have made themselves desirable by being a consummate professional, by making the posts that they need to do. They found a way to make themselves valuable to the people who are taking care of them. If the players in the U.S. refuse to do that, they refuse to help out their sponsors in any sort of way, I can't feel bad for you at all. And in fact, I won't even let people stand up for you, because at the end of the day, like, if you want to be desired, if you want to be marketable, you can do it. The only thing that's stopping you is your own laziness. And if that's the only thing that's going to keep you touring as a professional player and you refuse to do it, I just don't have any, I have zero sympathy for that. Like, if you want to do your job, then do your job. If you don't do your job in something else, you're going to get fired. And because you're a world-class pool player who is, can run out from everywhere and you beat all these champions, that doesn't mean that you don't have to do your job. And what your job is to get to pool tournaments and play in pool tournaments.
So
part of that is the marketing side of things.
Along with that, I want to tell you guys a story back when I had InStroke. So we started talking to Ralph Souquet about sponsoring him. And Ralph sent us a fax. So Robert will remember what faxes are. But
that's still his primary mode of communication.
Turn around, he's got one right there.
I have a tape player in my car with a hypnotic thing on it that I use when I go to tournaments.
So the first thing that happened in our negotiation with Ralph was he sent us a fax and laid out, kind of preliminarily what he wanted, and alongside the right side of the page on the fax was listed his current sponsors. And back then it was like Joss and Simonis and, pretty much the same sponsors he's got now. And I remember when I got that fax, I went into the office of one of my partners and I said, look at this. I said, I want our logo to be right here along with these people's logo. I want, every time Ralph sends out a fax to somebody or he sends a letter, he had actual letterhead made up. We received a real letter from him where it had the logos nice and crisp on the side. And we did end up sponsoring him for about a year or so. And I felt, as a sponsor, I felt super proud because I knew that every time that he was communicating with other people, we were right there along with all these great brands. And I have often used Ralph and that example to other players here in America and elsewhere as an example of the job that you're doing as a pro. So the playing part of it is the culmination of why you're there, but yourself as a player, you are yourself a brand, and you have to manage that brand and you have to ally with other brands. And that's the office work that you have to do. And that's I 100% agree with you, Nate, on that part of it. That a lot of players, they just don't realize that when they get to that level, they are an entity. They become their own, I guess a good example here is Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart. These guys, if you look a little bit deeper into what they're doing, they actually have companies. They're employing people. They're doing the office work that is beside their profession as a comedian. The comedian, the comedy aspect of what they do brings people to the table, but the business aspect of what they do is what they do behind the scenes to keep all that going, and not be at the mercy of the winds of change, of waiting for someone to pick up the phone and say, hey, you want to come to this comedy festival, or waiting for them to pick up the phone and say, you want to come to this pool tournament. So I agree with you, Nate. They have put themselves in position. Chris, Tyler, a few other people. April does a good job of getting out there and thanking her sponsors. Even lower level players have started to realize it's not lower level. I shouldn't say it like that, but lesser known players like Shane McMinn, for example. he never forgets to thank the people, that are there with him. Now, as a sponsor, for example, I don't, until recently, I guess I can announce it here, but I just recently agreed to sponsor Hunter Lombardo with actual money. So as a sponsor, I don't consider sponsorship to be real sponsorship if you're not giving money. If you're giving equipment, that's fine, but you're turning the player you're basically turning that person into someone who has to somehow turn that equipment into money. And you're adding on a layer, to them being able to realize the monetary benefit of that stuff. So until now, if I give someone a case, this is just me, right? If I give someone a pool cue case, I tell them explicitly and specifically, this is not a sponsorship. Because I believe that at your level, you can win a tournament. You could go in and win any regional or local tournament and have enough money to buy any pool cue case you want. But I'm giving it to you as a fan. If you want to say thank you to me or whatever, that's up to you, but you're not required to. But as soon as I give money, now I actually require them to do it, and list me as a sponsor. And I think that that's important, that what Nate said is that you have to acknowledge that. You have to help the people that are in the industry to grow, even in the smallest ways, just by simply continuing to promote their brands and their, links to their websites and stuff like that. And that is a virtuous cycle because it builds. The more your profile builds, the more their profile builds. Eventually, hopefully, they end up with a little more sales and a little bit more ability to be able to increase the amount of money they're paying to you and get you to these bigger events. So that's
1,000%. Yeah, but it kind of comes full circle though, John, because you started off saying like how people think that, you're a millionaire or all these companies are just, very fluid, and maybe they're not. So maybe that's all they're able to go and do is provide product. And in that case, it's like, if you want what little help I can provide to you, then you need to provide a little help to me in the form of going and selling the product. It's a win for me. It's a win for you.
Yeah, I just feel like that adds that extra layer on there, because as I've seen in the industry, I've seen players, and this goes back to, bad behavior, I guess, if you will. I've seen players go out, gamble, and they've got 3 or 4 cues from their sponsor or something like that, and then suddenly now they're selling these cues way under retail.
Pennies on the dollar. I've seen it.
People that do that regularly, what happens is a little reputation is formed where people say, oh, well, I don't want to buy that cue from that company or this company because I know I can get it from Joe Smith. Next time he gets a batch of cues,
Once he gets
I'll be able to get it from him and flip it easily for cost.
I've heard a lot of stories too about people getting.
But it's just a matter of who you going into bed with too.
Yeah. I heard a story like the first time I ever got a cue sponsor, I was, I think, 22 years old, and I was sponsored by Segan Cues. Segan was Segan Cues was Evan Clark, who made Shown Cues for 30 something years. So basically he was one of the main builders behind Shown Cues with Bob Rundy and Terry Romine. It was kind of those 3 guys making those cues. And I remember going into the office to pick out my very first cue, and I got it, and I left the place, and I went back in there a week later, and I talked to them, and there was another player who was a top Wisconsin player. I won't say any names, but he was in there the day before me and picked up a cue as well to be sponsored by the same company. And I went on a Friday, so he went on a Thursday, and from what I heard, that person who got the cue on Thursday sold it by Sunday. So he went in there to sign a deal with this company to basically be a represented player, got his free cue, and then sold it 3 days later to somebody who went to them and said, hey, look at this sweet cue that I just got. This thing's amazing. I'm so glad that you guys made this. This is a great cue. And they're like, wait, how did you get that cue? They're like, I just bought it. I just bought it yesterday. It's awesome. This is like one of the most beautiful cues I've ever seen. That's how they found out that the person that they were going to sponsor sold the cue already. I mean, that stuff like that just.
It happens. I've seen it. I bought cues from players, and I found out after the fact of what it was. I remember one time I was doing a deal with this kid hit me up. He was maybe like 17 years old. He's messaging me about buying a Davini. So I sent a message to Pat, and I said, Pat, what do you think this cue's worth? And he said, where'd you get that picture from? And I said, well, I got this kid offering to sell me this cue, and he's wanting $600 for it, butterfly cue. He said, Mike, is it so and so? I'm not gonna say the kid's name. And I said, yeah, that's him. He said, you buy it. I don't want him to have it anymore. He said, we gave him that cue as a part of a sponsorship deal, and it had maybe been like 2 months, and that was the way that Pat found out that the kid was burning them.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I say to all of that really is I say this goes back to kind of where I was at the beginning about figuring out how to bring more people into the sport. I feel like if we build a bigger pie, then everyone can have a slice that is good for them, and it doesn't create the incentives for people to go out and use sponsored goods as a quick money chip, when necessary. Because that's what it is, I mean, even if I sell to say dealers, we call them trunkers. If I sell to somebody who's enthusiastic about selling cases or billiard supplies and things like that, but they don't have an actual store or an actual structure, some of these guys can be the most fantastic, sales outlets that we have, but a lot of them are just kind of doing it as a sort of a hobby, a way to integrate themselves with people around. And when they get in trouble, they use our cases, for example, as a way to generate money really quickly.
Yeah.
And that could be 5 cases, it could be 10, until they're out of them or whatever they've got. And I think the players, they can't help but feel that same way, because if you're kind of in the middle of the pack as a player and you're not good enough yet to go snap off the tournaments and really cash deep, but yet you're good enough to gamble and, make some scores here and there, you're going to have those times where you're just dead broke. And if you've got stuff to sell, it doesn't matter whose stuff it is or what the premise of it was that you got it. You're going to try to turn it into cash because you can't give your pool cue case to the motel room manager.
As much as you'd like to.
No, he's not going to take
That's a good point.
Well,
I
think
that's
that's
the reality for sure. Part of the whole picture. Yeah.
You want to know what my favorite podcasts are? Podcasts where we don't talk about anything that's going on besides just what we want to talk about. And that was what today was.
And then you blink and it's an hour and 45 minutes later.
Yep. And we need to get wrapped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can
I will say
going.
this. Yeah, I will say this. Congratulations to Sanjin Pelovanovic. He had his first score. He finally won a European Championship. Wojtek Szewczak gets second place.
Let's just do
And it's
another one
on
later on this week, Nate, and we'll just talk about pool stuff.
Well, we could probably do that too.
Yeah.
Weren't we talking about stuff?
Well, like the pool events that we usually do.
Yeah. We got to keep everybody up. Maybe we'll do another podcast on Thursday. Then we'll talk to the normal crew and see what we can't get done.
I have a little something here written by Robert Byrne. It's called
He's had a good collection.
The Game of Timeless Beauty and Fascination, and it's about 3 cushion billiards. And I'd like to read that on the next podcast if I could.
Sure. How about we do a Manscaped ad? Does that sound like fun?
I gotta run. Y'all boys enjoy the Manscaped ad. John, it's good seeing you, buddy.
You too, Mike.
Rob, we'll see you guys later. Off.
Okay, Mike.
John's gonna like this. We all know how essential the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 is for the precise trim below the waist. Their advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts to your most delicate areas. But now you can enhance your perfect grooming routine with their ultra-premium collections. This package includes the Manscaped Premium Deodorant, not nice. No, not just for your balls, but for your stanky armpits. This deodorant dries clear and is aluminum free and smells like the signature scent.
You seriously have that?
Yeah. Hydrating Body
Oh, yeah.
moisturizer. Have tattoos or issues with dry skin?
Brow toner.
It's designed to keep your skin feeling clean, smooth, and smelling fresh. Body wash to lather you up with their infused aloe vera and sea salt shower gel. 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to clean your scalp with easy one step. And plus a free gift, a 3-pack of the lip balm. The Manscaped lip balm. That's what you're missing from your life, John. The Manscaped lip balm.
And
How is that lip balm applied to other people?
Via a pool table after hours.
Not for me anymore. Pool tables for playing pool, not for laundry or anything else.
There it is. That's 4 product plus 1 free gift. The Ultra Premium Collection. What a score. All of these products are cruelty-free, paraben-free, vegan-friendly, and dye-free. The best ingredients with zero compromise. How do you get yours? You get 20% off plus free shipping with the code QItUpPod at manscaped.com. That is 20% off and free shipping at QItUpPod.com. The power of attraction is now in a bottle thanks to Manscaped. There we go. You made it through. How was that, John? How was your first Manscaped ad?
Well, thank you. With
That
the
was great.
Manscaped.
I'm actually going to see what it's all about now. So the job was done here. Let's see.
There we go. It's working. How perfect is this? Hey, we've always wanted outside money in the industry, and we're getting it now with Manscaped. How great is that?
That is great. I don't think that people really remember that Joe Rogan started out with the fleshlight.
Really
Look
nice.
it up.
Yeah.
Really?
No, this is a
Really,
great.
that's not a joke.
This
Look it up.
baby's a great little tool. Trust me.
You
Yeah.
know?
At my age, of course, I use it for my ear hair and my nose hair.
Well,
And,
actually, Rob used to have a full head of hair just like me until he got the Manscaped. How about that, Rob? How
You
about
guys are crazy. Thank you, Nate, for inviting me. This has been the highlight of my month, to be honest with you. You know, except for buying the pool room, which you know, the news a little bit worn off there, so now the work begins.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
With that
Now,
pool
past
room.
the honeymoon
Oh,
phase.
boy, Chester's.
So
So if you're in the Oklahoma City area, go over and give this man some of your money. Spend some money, buy some food, get a little table time.
all right, or you know, get him in a game and take some money out.
there you go. That works too.
No hustle. There won't be any hustle here.
But anyway, yeah, it's I want to say that that you, Nate, are doing an amazing job with this. You put in so much work, and it's really great to see you. You know, always increasing your viewership and always doing more, getting some good industry tie-ins and some outside industry money. I've just been really impressed with you. You know, watching you the last couple of years. So thank you for inviting me and letting me be a part of it.
I appreciate that, John. And of course, you were on.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, you were on the podcast early on, right? I think when we met in Kansas, I got you on the podcast pretty shortly after that. And I think it's your 3rd time being on the show. Is that right?
I think it's my 2nd. I think we did an interview. We did a 1-to-1 interview, didn't we?
Yeah, and I thought we brought you on afterwards too, with like maybe did I bring you on with Mark Wilson too? Maybe.
I don't think.
Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I don't.
maybe.
Ed wants to know how many tables you have in your room, John.
We have 14. We have 11 bar tables and 3 9-footers.
Okay.
And there's
What kind of 9-footers are they? What brand?
we have 2 diamond 9-footers. We have 1 gold crown.
Okay.
And the rest of the bar tables are diamonds.
Okay.
Cool.
And there
Well,
was a comment on here that somebody doesn't want us to talk about big tables as
that's Ed. Ed's a purist.
Big tables,
Ed
yeah.
is.
that's not
I
the
agree.
10-foot table, it's the 9-foot table or the 8-foot table. Actually, the standard size pool table when I was growing up was 8 foot. Was an 8-foot
Yeah.
Brunswick.
Was it? Okay.
Oh yeah. Every pool hall you went into, there was hardly 9-footers around. A few, but most of them were 8.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, Willie Moscone's record was on an 8-foot.
Yes, it was.
You know, that's
You got to remember that Rob did grow up in the 20s too. So I mean, that was a while ago.
No.
but
No.
yeah. So Ed was saying, you know, don't say big table, say the size of it,
Regulation
like
size.
9 foot.
Yeah.
No, he wants to say regulation. Regulation is a 9-footer.
Right, regulation.
Oh, regulation. Okay. Well, I mean, I like that. Brunswick. I mean, I don't know how much more time we have, but an interesting little tidbit is that Brunswick actually did a marketing campaign to change the name of pool to pocket billiards. They actually put out lots of national ads in big papers and things like that, always using the term pocket billiards to try to popularize that instead of the word pool.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
I don't disagree with Ed on that necessarily. So maybe, it's a thing to watch our language a little bit. Maybe instead of calling them bar tables, we just call them 7 foot.
There you go. There you
or
go.
League regulation.
7-foot pocket tables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with league tables and regulation tables. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I hate
actually
7.
prefer tables with no pockets, but there you go. That's just me.
Shut up, Rob. You are such a liar. You're playing more pool than ever now.
Rob,
you're back to loving pool. And
were you around when they used like bundled grass for rails?
That's funny.
So,
all right, we'll close this out. I appreciate you joining in, John. It's been a pleasure. And Rob, as always.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.